Welcome, welcome very, very much to Conversation. It's a pleasure, delight and pleasure for me to introduce to you a dear friend of mine as my guest. That's Carl Pearson. He's a Esquire, an attorney, and he's an autodidact, an intellectual, and entrepreneur. And he's also a foreclosure defense attorney, as we can see. And so good to see you again, Carl. It's been far too long since we've had a talk.
It has been, and I'm glad to be back. I got a lot to talk about.
You're always busy. You've always got so much going. One of the things, we're in the middle of an election season. We got to touch upon that, if you don't mind. It's just a couple months off to the election. But also, there's this remnants of what happened from the foreclosure activity that followed upon the meltdown, as it were, the big meltdown of 2008 and everything. You've taken attention to that, what happened, and also some of the things that might be relevant to some of the people who have been perhaps illogically or inappropriately or unethically forced out of their homes by things that were going on by the system that were beyond, were maybe even bordered on the illegal and so forth, in terms of what was done in order to protect the system. And maybe we could talk some about that, because you've been following the implications of the meltdown of 2008.
Well, the meltdown, I think a lot of people will agree, was caused by too big to fail.
Yeah.
That is, that the Glass-Steagall Act, which prohibited banks from acting as investment bankers and forced they forced you.
That's right. Yeah.
They forced a bank to really just accept deposits and not make investments like the big banks are doing now. But with the elimination of Glass-Steagall, the banks then took that massive amount of capital that they have, that they should be using as a banker, and they're applying it to benefit themselves by expanding into all sorts of businesses.
That was 1899, Mr. Clinton.
Well,
I think that happened.
I forget who did it, and I just know.
I mean, the reneging of the Glass-Steagall Act, that went back to the 30s.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the Glass-Steagall Act, I forget the date. It might have been 19. I forget. Was it? I'm not sure of the date.
Well, it was in the aftermath of the big depression of 2029.
It might have been 1938 or so. I'm not sure what the date was. But, but what happened was that with the banks getting too big to fail, my field got eliminated. In other words, I lost my field of law because the banks and other companies became too big to control.
Well,
and the method of control that we had in the country at that time was antitrust law. So antitrust no longer became enforceable.
Wow.
So I had to look for something else to do.
Had you been doing that sort of
my whole life? I spent 50 years as an antitrust lawyer, and then suddenly my field is gone.
Well, you were also for a while, if you don't mind, we're friends, right? We had beer, we talk. You know the dog. You come to the and you were also an entrepreneur. You had a school for training paralegals, which was a major going concern, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You were involved in that.
I started the paralegal field.
Yeah, right. You started the. You're a very, very interesting and important citizen of Spaceship Earth.
You know,
and New York City.
I ran for mayor.
You did
on the reform ticket about 8 years ago. And I ran for Attorney General. I was on the ballot twice. In last November, I was on the ballot.
Did you run with a party, or
you can't? Well, yes, a Libertarian Party.
Libertarian,
and then I tried to get the Libertarian Party nomination for president. 4 of us sought it, and a guy, Gary Johnson, who left the Republican Party with an apparatus and money, and he took over the Libertarian Party. And it looks really, the interesting thing this year, which no one really knows, except I understood that when I ran for president 4 years ago, or I attempted to run, and that is that if the Libertarian Party or the Green Party gets 5% of the vote in America,
is that right? Yes, they
get a check for $93 million from the Federal Election Commission.
5% is quite a cut.
They get that. They're going to make it.
Have any of the Green parties made it? Green Party will make it. Will the Libertarian Party?
I think both will.
You think they will?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, they might, because there's so much. Right. There's so much angst and discontent.
But here's the consequence of that. See, right now the minority parties have no money at all to get any votes.
Yeah, it's usually the case.
And you're hearing that 15%, which is needed right now in order to participate in the national debates, right?
Yeah,
You've heard the 15%. The key, though, is 5%, because if they get 5%, they will get $93 million, and that will allow them to buy the votes that they need, and I mean legitimately. They will have the money to get the...
Is there a legitimate way to buy votes in an illegitimate way?
Through radio advertising, et cetera. You get people to be informed about your party, and you will get the votes that way. So I say buy votes, but not illegally, just through publicity, word of mouth, and other things. If you have $93 million, you're going to be in a good position to get the 15%. So that if they get the 5%, they can then have a good run at the 15%, and maybe there will be a change.
So you think there's some hope in the libertarian circles?
Well, I don't care whether it's Libertarian or Green Party. I want
Green. You like Green?
Well, I want the minority party to come in and really start doing the right thing for America.
Okay, one thing is for sure, and it came out very clearly in this election season, the primary, there's tremendous angst and discontent. It was manifest magnificently and in great dimension by Bernie Sanders challenging the routine view of the Democratic Party, and then also Donald Trump coming in and tapping into the angst that exists in general, free-floating angst in the society that's really very, very crucial and has to be understood in some dimension at this particular time, don't you think? Well, or wants to be understood. What's going on?
Well, what's going to happen is that one or the other will win, and it will make...
You mean the presidency,
and one or the other will win. It certainly, the Green Party will not win, and the Libertarians will not win. No. But I hope they get that 5% each one. I would love to see both of them do it. But if and when the minority, if and when the Democrats or the Republicans win the election, there will be no change at all, and that the rich will keep getting richer, and it will be more destructive of America.
No matter who wins, whether
that's right. Of course.
I've been talking to you, and I'm just talking out of school, as they might say now. But I just cannot understand. I'm really impressed by how brilliantly Trump has manipulated this society and taken over this society, because he's taken over the means of communication.
Well,
effectively, that's all they do is pay attention to him. If he opens his mouth, they will flock to that in thousands, and he's tapping into that angst with a great deal of credibility. He's taken over the media.
But that doesn't say what the consequence will be.
No.
I mean, he may win and he may lose, but it doesn't matter whether he wins or whether she wins, because the ever-increasing concentration of the economy is not going to change.
Well, it might mean, if it could, it might mean that right now as we talk, I just saw you listening to CNN today and all that, and all this is there, and like among blacks in this country is, I think it's a little less than 1% approval.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of really very serious low figures and everything. And he's talking such radical stuff. Yeah. And he's got an ability to it's like Svengali, can just talk and get the attention of the nation to the fact that there's something seriously wrong, and somebody's to blame for that, and it's the system that's to blame, and he can attack it. And Bernie did the same, did he not? Well, now, Trump is going so far along that he's saying things like, we're going to, I don't know, all kinds of crazy things that he says that don't make any sense and everything. And the polls are way down now, but he could actually spell the end of the Republican Party, I can see.
Well,
if possible, if it's carried on with the extreme, the Republican Party at its top has been defecting from him. He beat all 17 candidates from the Republican Party, as we've understood it since the party of Lincoln for all these years, with some sense of responsibility for the overall system, and just outdid them all.
Well,
but he could be spelling the end of an effective political force, the Republican Party.
But supposing that dovetails into the Green Party or the Libertarian Party
well, that's
becoming
a question to ask. That's a question to consider. Yeah, that might give more support to a third party, or
that is possible. But here, I think, wasn't Bernie in favor of a guaranteed annual income?
Yeah, sure. He's in favor of all those left-wing things.
But what's wrong with that? Why you say it's left-wing? What's wrong with when jobs are more difficult to get because we have automation. And
well, now that's a biggie.
Well,
that's a big thing
problem.
that's going on.
I disagree with you years ago.
Okay.
Years ago, you came out with this asinine theory.
I've come up with a lot of those. lots of
that we're going to run out of jobs.
Yeah,
and I said,
think
that's
true.
ridiculous. I said it about 12, 15 years ago. I said, that's really ridiculous.
Well,
and I argued against it. I believe that you were absolutely correct.
I think that's a major problem confronting humanity.
And we have got to deal with that by giving people an annual income that is a basic income, and that let the people then decide whether they want to work. And many people will volunteer even with that income. They'll do what they want to do, and they will be productive doing what they want to do because they have enough money to live. They've
been educated to do what they have to do in order to get... No, the educational process specializes and gets them into the habit of realizing what you have to do, what you don't want to do in order to get money.
Yeah, and we could change that.
That's what you're being educated to, and that's not going to be able to wash much longer.
We're going to have to change that because when right now we do seem to be running out of jobs. I mean, the blacks are the ones experiencing that.
Horrible.
They have an 80%, 90% unemployment rate. If you say with fair income and all that, they don't even have 10% in many areas.
And the Native Americans and all right.
So years ago, the Indians came to me in a party downtown, and they wanted me to be their. They wanted me to be their economic leader. We had 5 chieftains of different tribes, the Mohawks and others came to me, and and I at that point, this is before the casinos got started, and I almost went along with them and almost became almost agreed, except I didn't want to get involved because the casinos had some really difficult times. It would be unsafe, I thought, for a person to be fooling around with trying to set up casinos in different parts of the country. So I chose not to help them out because I couldn't think of really what they need.
But you didn't think it was because it was unfair what was done, but everything they had been stolen from them in the name of realpolitik.
The government had a policy of allowing them to do it, and I knew that, but I didn't want to get involved because I was afraid for my life. I didn't know if
the
one
government
could
might
survive.
Do you
Not the government, but other interests, because casino business started out pretty bad, years ago. It was pretty bad. People wound up with horses in their bed.
Right. That was a great film scene. The Godfather.
But right now, I've run for various offices, and I didn't run in order to win. I ran in order to meet the people who could win. Hoping that I could convince them of certain things that I would like to see happen. And the one thing that I've really been pushing is to try to have a training program in America that will teach people how to be the assistant to the owner of a small business.
Well, okay.
And that would pay $25 to $50, $100 an hour easily. There is no course in the country for that. And no one is interested in creating that course. Nobody is interested at all in creating a course where the graduates, without licensing, anywhere in the country could get, say, $50 per hour. Nobody is interested.
Why wouldn't there be somebody entrepreneurially interested in starting that up? Because that's a real business proposition.
Let's go to the people. Let's go to the people with money. If you go to Walmart and say, "Hi, Mr. Walmart, I have a proposition for you. I have an idea where anyone in the country that really wants to take a course could learn how to earn $50 an hour. And I need some money to start the course."
No, they're only paying 10 or something.
Well, why would they want to train people?
Because they can get it cheaper.
That's right. So the people with the money are not interested in giving the education that you need in order to compete with that.
Well, okay,
and therefore
they can also outdo what
therefore the corollary, the consequence is this: that the courses of instruction that we do have and allow in this country are not designed to benefit the people themselves, to allow them to start small businesses and compete with big companies. Instead, the course of instruction that you and I pay for is authorized and provided at our expense only if we're going to train people to go to work for big business, government, and the military.
Big business, government, really? Well, why would it not be applicable for small business?
Because the training that we offer in colleges is not really significant, other than to enter into a training program with a big company, with the military, or with the government. They will train people. They're large enough to train people in specifics. So we give people what we call a liberal education at your expense and mine, with student loans that are out of the... You know, the student loan problem is
terrible
worse.
Debt
it's worse than anything.
Yeah. It's awful, and they can't get out of it.
Well, yes, they can. But
I
wrote a book on that.
Oh, good. Did you really? Good for you. Good,
I call it How to Get Rid of Your Student Loans.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Is it out? It's out and available.
It's at $2 on Amazon.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. Yeah.
I wrote it. But I have all the forms. But here's basically, not everyone can do it. And the government just came in and did exactly what I said they could do. The government came in and did this. Here is the problem, that if a student signs up for a course, let's say in psychology, takes a master's degree in psychology.
Pretty abstract.
Okay, and he pays $70,000 a year for 2 years for that program. So he owes $140,000. What kind of a job can he get where he could pay off that loan and still earn a living as a person who took a master's in psychology?
Maybe a therapy job at a soup kitchen?
No, I think you need to collect garbage on a garbage truck.
Yeah, right.
That would be an appropriate job where he could actually earn enough money maybe to pay off the loan.
Maybe, yeah.
But you don't need that training.
Yeah, right.
So if a person has taken a course of instruction that winds up with no money, meaning that they should have told them at the outset that you're going to take a course of instruction that's going to cost you $140,000, and you never will be able to pay off the loan because you can't earn enough money with a degree in that area.
How can people be seen, the youth coming up, how can people be seen in a responsible way, family and whatnot and everything, to where they can do something where they are going to be able to, let's say, provide for a wife or a family and children, and meet the responsibilities of citizenship by leading a good, responsible life? What can they do in order to pursue that?
Let's look at the problem, and that is that I think you can treat education similar to the way we look at a fire department.
A fire department.
That is that if you have a fire, you call the fire department for whatever it is you hope they come out and put out the fire. So if a person wants an education, they go to a school. They don't understand the economics of it.
Yeah.
But they sign up because that's what the government program is. But they sign up for $140,000, and they can never earn the money needed to retire that loan, pay the interest, and earn a decent living.
Where's the $70,000 come in?
Well,
what's $70,000? That's to be at a college. That's to be at Harvard or something.
That's the cost. I think NYU charges about $70,000 a year.
That's the tuition. Is that living?
I'm not sure.
That's a pretty high figure. But yes, okay.
Do you want to know what the cost of training
when
somebody is?
When I went to university, it was free.
Do you want to know? Well, true. Remember Baruch?
Yeah.
Used to be free.
Yeah, it was
City College used to be free years ago.
Nobody thought about it. Yeah.
But do you know what the
That's the way it ought to be.
Do you know what the cost of educating a person is? 30 people in a room, 1 year, a lecture type of course, not a wet course. You know what the cost is if you eliminate all regulation?
I have no idea what a wet cost is. What is a wet cost?
Physics and chemistry and biology.
Wet? Why
laboratory.
Why wet?
They have sinks. Laboratory.
Oh, sinks. Is that really? That's interesting.
I call it a wet course.
Well, they have another term for it, but yeah.
Okay, but laboratory courses.
STEM or something. Yeah.
So if it's a lecture course and if you have no regulation at all, the cost with 30 people in a room is $1,000 a year. That's all that it costs to educate people. Remember, I owned a school for 18 years.
You did.
I know this. I know the costs of education.
Yeah.
But we won't allow that to occur, so we regulate it. We can't regulate the quality of education.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to regulate the quality.
Uh-huh.
So we regulate the number of pages that we have. We regulate the size of the door. We regulate the rugs. We regulate the windows, the mirrors, the bathrooms, anything except what is real and needed. We cannot regulate that. What we ought to do is to eliminate all regulation and allow anyone to offer a course of instruction as freedom to speak. It should be a freedom, but it isn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, that might be a good general. That might be a general formula for the society in general.
I brought the action and I lost. I sued NYU and I lost the case. Federal court said no, you don't have a right to do that.
Well, I wonder if we could go back to the thing about the meltdown and all that, and the larger issues of the economy and everything. We were talking about that, and I mentioned to you, if you don't mind, a couple of people I'd like to bring up, if we could, is Timothy Geithner.
Yeah.
He's written a really interesting book called Stress Test about what was the attitude of the people who put together what was done in 2008 and so forth.
With those 3 pieces of paper that...
three pages. Had to be on the president's desk and signed that week, or else the whole world was going to fall
Trillions
apart.
of dollars.
Well, anyway, but he's talking about what was the context, because there was a lot going on then and everything. And above all else, as was the case with Franklin Roosevelt, as we come up the trail of time and everything like that. The big thing is we could do some things. They set up, Franklin Roosevelt set up WPA, and they set up Social Security, a nascent thing out into the future and everything. You could build on the future and everything. But the main thing was you had to, above all else, responsible citizens, to save capitalist banks. You had to save that system that had created the problem, above all else, or else you would have runaway, absolute anarchy, and the whole world system would fall apart. It would be the end of the human society. That's their argument. They had to bail them out and send them trillions of dollars, and they had to give them away, and they had to give them all kinds of leeway about overlooking the laws or the thoughts so that they could go through and throw millions of people out of their homes illegally and so forth, and with fraud, and you had to let them do that in order that the system not fall apart into anarchy.
Here's another aspect to that, and that is that in order to pretend that the banks were financially secure, we had to allow the banks to carry mortgages at the old original note value.
Well, that's a detail of it.
But that's an important detail.
Okay.
Because the value of the property slipped down to 50% of what it was.
Okay.
So that if you have all of that capital that they recognize as the value of the note brought down 50%, all of the banks were under. They were under.
Yeah, but then you can't have that.
They were under.
Yeah.
And therefore...
They would be.
Well, we would have to
We
close
can't allow that to happen.
Well, isn't that true, though?
Yeah, that isn't true. And even if you have to bend the law...
But the point is that they became too big to fail.
All right, you brought that up at the beginning.
And we have done nothing to stop that.
And is that true? Is that what we have to do?
It's still true.
Well, I said one time in a little program I did, somebody said, well, it's uneven. You've got a few people at the top have all the wealth.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it seems to me like we've been here 200,000 years, and that's been the order of things since roughly the beginning of time. There's always been a few people who have the control.
But do you want to know what it is?
And so we just continue with that.
I got into politics to try to find out why that was so. And it's so because we allow the rich to finance the elections.
Well, okay, that's an interconnected thing with the politics.
It doesn't have to be that way. It could be that with email and with telephones and media that is owned really by the people, the media.
Don't forget tweets.
Yeah.
They got this thing, tweets.
So
the young kids
really,
have tweets.
You really don't need to have any money at all. You could have the government-sponsored airwaves used by people running for office. You don't really need the money. And therefore, if you had government financing like that, you would eliminate the power that people have to buy politics. You wouldn't have people trying to raise money if we already allocated the airwaves to people running for office.
Well, it seems to me that people running for office, and that's interesting too in the current situation, because that Mr. Trump has been absolutely genius at taking over all the media in this country, and their television doesn't count, New York Times doesn't count, print doesn't count, books don't count, all kinds of things don't count. What counts is who's got control of the media, and they just absolutely follow him around like a Pied Piper in Hamlet.
Now, you want to know another way? Here's another way. Remember every
time he gets up, they track to him. That's all they go. And then he says some absurd thing. but he's touching into the angst, the deep angst, existentially being understood by so many people, not only in the United States, but in the world.
Remember I told you that if the Green Party or the Libertarian Party or either one gets 5%,
yeah,
what happens? They get a check for $93 million.
Okay.
Now, assuming that is nearing the possibility.
Well, they would have to have an answer then.
Then the answer to that
the
is...
The assumption is they've got an answer?
Yeah, the answer is this. They'll change it to 7.5%.
Well, no, wait a minute.
So that they never will get the money.
Oh, okay, that's another thing. But no, the question is, Mr. Trump he's taken over the country and the world in a very real sense, in a brilliant way, that he's got everybody there, and he's also alienating so many people in the established way, and so many people are upset with the established way that is not served well, as it never has. It's always been for the rich in the castle on the hill off gold plates and the people wallowing around in the mud.
How do you know that what happened here is not just a reaction to the fact that the Republicans tried to stymie the American people? They blocked it. They were willing to let the government shut down, and maybe this is a reaction, a payment for what they did.
Well, it may be the end of the. It may be that it's getting in such a point where. Did I say it already on this air or something? I saw on the thing that among black people, they've been so badly treated, it's impossible. They're shooting them down with alarming regularity against insurrectional thinking and all of that. It's terrible. And then you had the phenomenon of Mr. Bernie Frank coming along and asking for things for minimum wage and all this kind of things from a leftist, if you want to, sort of perspective and everything. But now it's getting down to where that angst is still there. But he may be spelling the end of an effective. It's been the Democrat and Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, the party of responsible people, and it may be eliminating itself as a political force.
It's happened before.
No, it's happening. I mean, they're going away like rats from him. He may bring it down. So
the Whig Party. We've lost parties before.
But was he hired by the Democratic Party to come on the scene and destroy it?
Look, the Progressive Party was there until the silver, issue.
Yeah, but this is history. I'm talking history. What I want to try and talk about is future, and what I want to try and talk about what in the hell is going on, because what's going on isn't a normal period in history. There's something very, very different going on now.
It isn't different.
The
rich are getting
richer. Where
richer.
are the answers to what it is going to have to be coming in terms of the human condition? Is what we're getting.
The rich are getting richer, and more people will
always
be on
the rich are getting richer.
And more people will be on the street, and we're going to have to give an income, or we're going to have to do something. I mean, that costs money.
With all due respect,
that's what we're going to have to do.
With all due respect, okay? You're talking about this or that, or we can train people for this and that and everything. What's going on? You did say something about, we mentioned Kurzweil and the computer. The people are, the labor theory of value informing the left. The left doesn't have an answer. Yeah. The left doesn't, even if it does. Republican Party's away. You got a clear thing with the Supreme Court. The blockage, that lady from Alaska that was so, the Tea Party thing, it was so silly and so comic opera and everything, that won't be there blocking. Mitch McConnell saying no to everything. They'll have a fair thing. So they still don't have an answer on how to set up the economy, because they will just have the same old, the Democratic Party, and they're not going to have an answer either.
But they have. Their answer is working for them. It already is working. The answer is there, and it's helping them, and they're getting richer. That's the answer.
Well, no, there's some people getting richer. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. The benefits all go to the one 62 families own half the wealth of the people.
Okay,
it's absurd, and it's accepted. That's accepted.
Well,
okay, now. And then you bring up the fact about your thing about getting $5 an hour or $50 an hour or some job or something. The labor theory of value informs the left. That's going to be the left coming in strong now. Now the left is there. The progressives are there. And what have they got? They got a labor theory of value that comes out of Marx or something. Yeah. The labor theory of value is moving to the vanishing point in terms of the way production is going on in this economy. It's all being done by robotized cyberneted things, and people are not needed as workers.
That's the guaranteed income. That's where you need a guaranteed income.
Okay,
right
a guaranteed income, is it recognized on what criteria do you determine that?
That if you're living,
what do you do?
You get a certain amount per year.
No, but what do you do in that situation regarding the institution of private property, private ownership of a stock certificate in the private sector? What do you do with the private sector? Do you eliminate the private sector? Everybody becomes like socialist or communist or something?
I think the government would issue the money, not the Federal Reserve and not the banks, but the government would issue the money, and that money would be spent, but it would be a minimum amount that you need just to survive.
Oh, so that's it. Well, you don't need. Tiny Tim, could I please have a little more gruel? You don't need more gruel. You understand. You read the history of the world. The poor have always been ground down, and by this thing about how they, and then selling you the thing about it's your own fault. So, because and the thing is, what about Thomas Piketty? Are you into Thomas Piketty?
No.
You're not reading Thomas Piketty or anything?
No.
Or what is the Democratic Party going to offer in terms of maybe the progressive thing will be able to come into its own flower, getting this Republican Party and the drag of all that out of the way? Is that something we could think might happen?
I don't see anything good happening out of politics.
I not?
I don't see it. I don't see it. Bernie was good. I mean, if
well, wait a minute. If he was good, then that's something to go with. His ideas.
If the Libertarians and the Green Party can get 5%, but they can change it to 7.5%.
Well, what would they change it to? What are they
7.5%?
What?
And
I don't know what that
wouldn't
means.
get the money.
Spray that again. How you're going to get a bundle of money if you get enough votes. Then you're going to get money, so then you can educate people to the reality of
November,
what policy.
In November, if the Libertarians get 5% or more of the vote, they get a check for $93 million.
Okay, what do they do with the check for $93 million? It's peanuts in terms of what the overall
system. Well, that's
system.
a lot of money.
No, it is to you and I, but not to the system.
Oh yeah, it will allow them to get
to
15%.
What big thing do they? Look. Yeah. Education. It's all specialization. It's dividing and conquering the intellectual exercise.
That money is only used for campaigning.
No, the educational process that we have. Okay. Yeah. It's all specialization. You become specialized in something. It's dividing and conquering the educational, the intellectual experience, and it's a system of dividing and conquer. They get so specialized out, they can't think about anything about their little thing that they're involved with. The use of the finger on the right hand they know all about, but they don't know about anything else.
Well,
there's practically no systems thinking going on anywhere, where they're comprehensively trying to understand what the hell's going on by bringing in all kinds of things that interrelate. There's no systems thinking at all. It's all specialized, gotcha, on this little point, that little point, and they haven't got any. Where are the real thinkers? This guy's starting a thing now. They got a thing that the starter, it was on the thing, the guy's got a thing. They're going to be talking about ideas with some of the major thinkers. They need to get some sort of a thing. You haven't read Piketty?
No.
You haven't read. You do understand about? Can you understand as you do now, like you didn't, that the people are being put on the dustbin of history as wage slaves?
Well,
they've been wage slaves, easily manipulated by the master.
But that's just another way of saying that we have an ever-increasing concentration of the economy. I just use different words, but that's the result of what's happening.
I'm not sure it's more. No, I think it might have been more in Rome. I think it was more concentrated in Rome under Caesar. It might have been a power, or under the kings of Europe, the crowned heads. It was more concentrated. They were wallowing around in the mud and dying.
Yeah.
Okay? No, it was worse. And it wasn't any of the material possibilities of building a better life that we have now. We now have weapons, Carl.
I know.
We have weapons. And the weapons can wipe out, apparently, the species.
Easily, yeah.
Do you think that's true?
Oh,
Can you do it?
I do. I believe it's true.
No, it's us, mostly. Yeah. And there's going to be frustration because they don't have a way of what about the private sector? Should we just do away with the private sector? If we get really all the county, everything will be the government and they'll do everything?
I am not to, I don't want to give away or do away with the private sector. I want to enhance the private sector by giving small people the opportunity
to what?
Realistically of competing in the private sector.
Okay, let me suggest something. The people that work in the private sector, here's something that is going on in a very, let's say somebody, they got a little extra capital. They got a little extra money. They want to be, the benefit they have is they're able to make an investment that's going to pay for itself out of its future earnings, not based upon past savings only. It can tap into the future earnings of a system that's emerging.
Are you talking
That's given the benefit of the people who have already wealth accumulated.
I'm not talking about investment. I'm talking about people having an economic activity which is a business for them, where the money they put in is not an investment; it's just backing themselves in their own business.
Well, that's giving them value as workers.
Well, that's what
you want to underscore how important they are as a worker to the economy. You know, that I think is something that ought to be brought into question.
Well, we need to.
They don't matter.
We need.
No,
well,
what you got to do is they're being sold a bill of goods at how important they are, what they do.
Well, they are important.
No, but they aren't.
Well, they
aren't really in terms of the economy. What's important? No, but they're not important anymore. They used to be.
Well,
you used to have people on the assembly line, and Ford had to turn the nuts. They needed those people. They don't need them now.
Here's what happened: the individuals get the ideas, and the rich use them and steal them and own them. So.
Well, now the owner. What about the idea? Should we do away with private property ownership? Should we do away with the idea of a piece of stock that you can invest in the future and tap into the future for everybody rather than only the rich? Well, that's how the rich get richer.
I think you have to, instead of trying to imagine what a perfect society might be, I think you ought to look at the worst evils and try to cure them, and hope that along the way the rest of it can happen. But
well, we can in a certain, what I'm trying to guard against is, what I'm trying to do, and maybe it's wrong, people always probably do it, these are the most amazing times ever, everybody said John Valjean and all that and everything, but they aren't. But this is not your normal time. I'm trying to say it's not like a normal period, French Revolution or the Second War or something like that. This is a time of qualitative, not quantitative, qualitative transformation of the human condition.
Correct.
And we got all these institutions out of the past that are outdated in terms of what the future allows now that it hasn't allowed. We're coming to a time of liberation, perhaps, possibility for the human spirit. They've always been like wage slaves. They've had to be like slaves, essentially, to those who owned all the assets that are creating the wealth. Now, how do we get how are we going to, and they're being put on the dustbin of history as wage earners. Now, full employment is something that they're going to try and get, and they're going to encourage people to be working and all that sort of thing. But they're going to leave it all the ownership. The reason the 65 people have all that, they have stock ownership in the capital assets that represent the assets that are producing the wealth, the machines. They own it.
Okay.
Why do we allow it to all be concentrated in a small number of hands? Why don't we send it to everybody?
Because we've lost a middle class.
Well, all right.
And the only way of getting a middle class is to allow small business to prosper, and we have rules that prohibit that.
Wait a minute. Again, that's back to small business. So you got a guy sets up a business, and then you give an opportunity for the clerk to come in. Mr. Cratchit can come into Mr. Scrooge's office, and he can do something to get some money. They're going to do money by what they do. They're going to have to open up the idea of getting capital ownership into the hands of everybody as a way of distributing demand.
You're viewing stock investment and trying to say that everyone in America should own stock.
Everybody in the world should.
But I'm saying that we ought to have direct opportunity in business that doesn't have stock. You don't need stock. You need to have people profitably employed, self-employed, and if you do, they will expand.
You're right. In a very real sense, that's right. If you're maintaining the old way, that's what it is. And you got the image of the guy works hard and he does his thing.
But add a guaranteed
and all those
income.
Values are going to try
guaranteed income to that, so that not everyone has to do it, but those that want to should have the opportunity. Those that want to get jobs, not everyone wants to have a job, especially if you have a guaranteed income.
Well, if you had a guaranteed income that would make it possible for you to lead the life you wanted to do, why would you bother with a job? Where you're going to go and be told what to do?
But why do you assume that a guaranteed income is $100,000 a year? Why not assume it's only $7,000 a year? Why not say, let's have a reasonable sum, 7 non-taxable, 10 non-taxable, and then for those people that want to work, allow them to work. You have fewer people demanding a job that way.
Okay, yeah.
And you have an incentive for people to get a job for those that want it. Many people don't want to work.
Yeah, right. Well, I never liked school.
But they would rather participate, let's say, volunteering in a hospital.
Thank you.
Wrong with
Thank
that?
you. Thank you.
What's wrong with that?
Or have opportunities for people to do things that are done.
Or to take educational courses. Why do we have to?
I'm just trying to get away from the idea. They're selling us a bill of goods about how important it is what we do as citizens. And I think we ought to get over that, or not let them get away with the fact that, as Mr. Piketty says, he calls it, well, you've even said it. What's happening is the productive process is becoming totally capital intensive. You don't need people to be doing all the work ethic and all the ethics that go with working and working hard and saving and all of that kind of stuff was good out of 200,000 years of our existence. We're now coming into a thing where you got to have an alternate way. He said the major problem is we have a capability to destroy the species. Now that's telling us something existential.
But that exists whether or not you have that.
That's on a dialectic. You got weapons, and it's mostly the United States, about the same Soviet Union, 7 billion, whatever, 7 million hydrogen.
It only takes one. I mean,
it takes a whole to wipe out the species.
Yeah.
Now we couldn't do that in the Second World War. That's our time.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get at is a change. A change is coming. A big change, like leaving the womb or something. That's not just a continuation of that. And Mr. Piketty says that it's all becoming. The production is all becoming part of the the means in which production is being done. The adverse side to the destructive scenario. We have a capability. We have clean water, housing. We could get housing to everybody. We have a capability of providing housing for everybody, not meted out in all kinds of ways where you're getting a little quarter point gain or profit or something. We have a capability. We have educational systems. They could be we have roads.
Sure.
We have fresh water. We have this capability.
I'm not sure. You say we. Do you mean
collectively
America
the
or
human
the world?
society,
Do you think
the collective society? Yeah, we have a capability.
I'm not sure if there's an ever-increasing population. I'm not sure that you have the opportunity of having everyone be given the
not only given a little pittance, not a pittance, not a sellout, not that. A have-like way of being. We have enough. There's never been enough. It's always zero sum. For one to win, somebody else has to lose. You have to bargain it out. All that kind of stuff. We have enough to take care of everybody. Housing could be done. Transportation can be done with the ability to do it. We don't have a way of getting effective buying power into the hands of the mass of the people. Because they don't have anything but labor to offer, and their labor isn't needed.
But you keep hitting upon it without acknowledging it, and that is the guaranteed income would be the thing you're looking for. If you just look at it for a moment and just say $10,000 a year, and that will be a lot. That'll go far into giving people what you're saying they should have.
How are we going to get buying power into the hands of the people? By giving everybody money.
Well, why not?
Giving them money.
But why not?
Okay, that's another way of looking at it. Yeah.
We put people on Social Security. We give people free education.
That's something that we have.
We do a lot of things.
We don't give them free education now. You notice.
Well, a lot of
they're indentured slaves. It's indentured slavery.
They're free because they don't pay the loans.
Well, what do you mean? They're not
paying the loan, so that's really a free education.
That's one thing we can eliminate.
And we harass them for it.
Yeah, but Piketty's thing is you've got to have a way of getting. One thing he's saying, French. All the political leaders are reading him with chagrin, because you've got to get some ownership of the capital assets that are producing the wealth.
I'm not sure
in the hands of the people as a way of distributing effective buying power.
No,
that's what he's saying.
Just give him a goddamn
if you're
guaranteed income.
Okay,
it's easier.
Well, maybe, but it's also easier to relate to. It's also easier to relate to what he's bringing up.
I don't want it, but that may be the wrong method. If we just allow the government to give people a certain minimum amount, why not? What's easier? It works for Social Security.
Yeah, we did that. Why don't we just turn everything over to the government and become a socialist economy and become a communist party? Karl Marx was right.
But who's saying that we're already giving away Medicare, we're giving away Social Security, we're giving away welfare to the rich, we're giving away a lot already. Why can't we just give $10,000 a year to an individual? Every individual gets $10,000, and that will be a tremendous buying power. And many people would like to.
Now you're going to do that. Okay, that's something that could be brought up. I don't know. Maybe if Trump ruins the Republican Party as some sort of break on anything that's going to deal with the private sector, there are going to be people who want to do away with they would like to hang the private sector. There's 62 people. Let's hang the sons of bitches and take their money.
The Green Party would probably be the ones that would be more interested in offering something like that. The Libertarians would probably not be interested at all in doing that.
Yeah, okay, but then behind it all is the question of what the frig is going on. Because what the frig is going on isn't able to be what you could do is, there's never been material reality. There's never been enough. Enough. There is enough. If you're in a thing where there's enough, is different than if it's short.
There always is enough. It's just that the purchasing power isn't there to distribute it.
It isn't enough. When you're in a Cro-Magnon cave and you're the mother of a child and there's only 3 eggs and there's 2 children crying and everything like that, you will do everything and you will fight them off and you will get the thing for your kid. You will save your kid above everything else. You'll fight and die and kill, and they're doing it for your own people because there's not enough. For us to have something, they have to be taken from them.
That isn't true.
That's the thinking of the world.
That isn't true.
That's the thinking of the world.
If you have a demand and you have the money to create
no, if you have a demand but not the supply.
Well, the supply will be created if you have the demand.
Well, then Mr. Piketty's saying, how are you going to get the demand using the private sector as well? Instead of having it all concentrated in those hands, you got to have a way, you got to have some deal with the various levels of risk in the economic order. It can be done. Swaps and derivatives and things like that. You get to, and then you can allow there to be the formation of the capital in a way where it goes to everybody. Maybe in addition to your.
Don't tamper with the capital system.
I want to tamper with the system in place.
But not when you can just issue the money to a guaranteed income.
Well, that would be as long as you've got it.
That's the beginning.
I don't. Well,
do that as step number one.
If the Republican Party and all the keepers of the old established order along those lines is out of the way, then the way may be open for there to be an openly socialist world. Is that something that a lot of the...
Why is that socialist?
Well, you do away with the private sector.
Well, it's
They're
not.
the bastards that have it all.
The money that is going to be distributed is going to be competed for by small business. They're going to set up businesses that will service the people that have that money. You're going to have an expansion, a radical expansion of the economy if you give away the basic income that people need to have a basic living. It's a very bullish thing.
Well, maybe that might be the case, but I am of the opinion that there's going to have to be something done that when you form the capital and you form the activity with the future, the ownership of the capital assets that are being created have to be in the hands of everybody rather than in the hands of the few now. And that the world allows it to go that way without having any...
as long as you keep saying that, you're the one that causes the inability to move forward because you're creating an obstacle that isn't going to happen. You won't take the intermediate step. The government could give the money that is needed to accomplish a lot of what you're saying. But for you to take away private property from all the vested interests, it's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're wasting your time in trying to talk about it when you have a very simple medium here of just giving away a basic income, and that will be the floor that will cause an economic expansion, and perhaps it'll drown out, it'll overcome the thing that you're looking for. But we need to have a growing middle class, and that's, I think, a way of creating it.
Well, okay, then where would the money? How are we going to get that?
The government just issues it.
How are you going to get that money off to the people in, that are being in the ghettos all over the world
you're
in India and all
saying all over the world. Let's try it in America.
Okay,
first.
Or in America. How are you going to get money to them?
Oh, that's simple. They do it with Social Security. They put it right in the bank account directly. Everyone would have a bank account, and they would be issued the money every month. Say $12,000 a year, just to make it a simple $1,000 payment per person per month, and then they're free
per person.
And they're free to go out and earn a living and earn a job, get a job without any loss of that income.
Now, what would it take for that to happen?
Politics.
What would it take in real terms
for
that
Sanders
to be happening?
And that'd happen.
If you had then it may be this would be a step, or a reasonable step.
I think the Green Party would be apt to. The Green Party would probably be the one that would.
Why not the Democratic Party? The Democratic Party is Bernie's party.
They're controlled by the rich.
Well, you're saying, that's back to the thing with the rich who are protecting their interest, and you don't have to. What do you do with the rich who are protecting their interest?
You're going
the Democratic Party will protect the interests of the banks who are in control of everything.
Maybe the thing to do is to identify the rich and then have as many homeless people as possible camp outside the homes of the rich.
Well, we've tried that. It doesn't work. They just tell them to get. They'll call in the National Guard.
Okay.
Now, what you got to do is have something that can be understood by the people who are of a private property capitalist persuasion.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are wealthy. They're the ones who have the wealth. So instead of it being only limited to those few, then you have a thing where you have. I think you've got to bring them in. Not do them in, bring them in, and bring them into a way where the capital formation is done in a way where it is disseminated.
But it's not.
Now you're saying it can't be done because why? Some genetic flaw in the people who are successful?
You need a political resolution of this through legislation. You're not going to do it with voluntarily creating. You're not going to ask people with wealth to voluntarily
Well, what are we going to do with the people that are wealthy?
Well,
they're going to be the ones. They have the money, so they're the ones who are going to be sending out these checks every time. Where's the money going to come to send out to every ghetto?
If you build a strong middle class, they will be able to have the votes that will change things. But now the middle class is lower. There's fewer people in the middle class.
Well,
and they have no political. There's very little political punch there. You need to have people earning money so they have the time, the freedom to go out and do politics. The rich are engaged in politics.
Earning money by what they do, a job.
It doesn't matter.
That's labor theory.
It doesn't matter.
Distributing by your labor.
You give them a guaranteed income and you bring them up to a certain level. I think you have to say that whatever you do with your time, if you get that guaranteed income, is your job, whether it's volunteering to go to the fire department and clean up, or whether it's helping out in school, or whether it's just being at home and taking care of the children, or just educating yourself, looking at television.
Going off on a lark.
It doesn't matter.
Going off on a lark.
It doesn't matter.
Doing what you want.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you're going to have a certain base, and you're going to have a hell of a lot of money available for small business.
Where is the money going to come? I don't quite see where the money's going to come from.
The government prints it.
It's going to come.
The government prints it.
They just turn it out.
Well, that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, why not give the people some money? Why do the banks get all the money?
Well, why is it that it's why? Okay, that's what I'm asking you. That's what Piketty's asking the world.
Yeah.
And he's being listened to with chagrin.
Yeah.
Because he's saying you can't have that.
You can't.
You cannot have it all concentrated in 100 people's hands. It's unworkable.
No, I didn't say that. I said
he's the one who says we have to get some demand into the hands of the people.
300 million people should each get $1,000 a month.
You're talking about the United States?
Yeah.
Okay, and it goes into the world. He's talking about the world.
Well,
as well.
leave that for later.
No, but how
Try
about
it
the
out
idea
in America
that? How
first.
about and do we put off and that everything's okay coming out of history? We're not going to have any kind of a reaction to that. Whatever would turn off.
Let's try it.
Whatever would loosen
Let's try it.
What would loosen the Trident submarines? That's what it is. That kind of thing. Something that would go like that. That would unleash that because we have the ability.
But we already have it. Though.
We have to. You don't think we have to have any vision of the fact that we are now able to do things that we've never been able to do? There is enough. There is enough. There's never been enough things are changing. There is enough as a premise for human thinking and policy.
I'm not saying we
ought
to...
Can you understand the words?
Yeah.
When you're in a thing, there are 10 beers and there's a half a beer. Having enough in capability to destroy the whole species is a major thing evolutionarily. Having enough to supply a decent have-like existence for everybody is now available to it. It never has been. It ought to be brought up as part of the existential reality.
I think you're trying to say... I think you're trying to say that the store should be open where anyone can go in and take anything they want. I'm saying no.
Not at all. I'm trying to get, you got to get something in.
I'm saying you need to have the money handed to the people and let them choose what stores they go into and whether they want to open up stores themselves. Give the basic income because jobs are not doing it. You have too many people that cannot have gainful employment.
Oh, and now you're not basing...
If you take a job, one person takes a job, that other person that lost it can't get a job.
What I'm trying to get away from is the idea of a job or getting something for what you do or all those values. Those are values that have to be got over. I mean, in a way. They've been trained to be slaves, the people of the world. They've got to get into a different way of thinking, and the world and leadership of the world has to get in a different way of working. And essentially what it is, materialistically, there is enough. There has never been, there is now enough at capability.
Look, some people want to work.
That gives room for new decisions.
Some people want to work. Other people would like to talk. Some people would like to just get more of an education. Like you're a person that would rather develop your information. You don't really want to go out and get a job. You want to have more and more knowledge.
Well, I would like to save the world from destroying itself and allow it to have a vision upon liberating.
But some
liberation,
people
not a new projection of the old principles, something new. That's what the world is calling for. We need something new, not just a continuation of the old.
Well, I think a guaranteed income would be a good start.
Well, that would be a continuation of a lot of thinking, and there would be and everything. But at least, I don't know. I just think you got to bring it all in. And the thing is, it's got to. This guy, the major guy who started all the major companies, he's starting now. He's taking it all down. He's starting a think tank with all the leading figures on the idea of what's going on. Is a German guy. The guy was behind all the major players in the world. They're starting to think, what in the world's going on? We need new thought. I'd like to try and think that we have to be getting toward that. And it's a credible thing to be born into an era of qualitative transformation, not quantitative, qualitative transformation. That is the mark of the time we were born into. Anyway, it's been good talking to you. I'm sorry I got off on a rant. And it may be that we got away from the thing, and you wouldn't then have to have the manipulations and the allowing the banks to do what they've done in order to make sure they would be saved so they could continue doing what they have done. They've got to be brought up and included in the understanding of what's going on rather than excluded or eliminated.
Politics is what is
well,
needed.
Politics,
you need politics here, and that it is political what we're talking about, and you need to have
But there's something beyond politics.
Class.
There's something beyond it's called vision, and we're lacking it. We don't have it in our political.
No, the rich have vision, and their vision is to get richer, and it's working for them.
We got to bring them in. They've got to be brought into. And this guy, the guy who's setting, he's got a German name and all that. He's behind all of this, the major, richest guy in the world, and he's giving it all up. He's going to do a thing where they're going to think about what is going on. That's what I suggest we should do, and listen to Thomas Piketty. Anyways, great talking to you, Carl. Okay?
Good talking to you, Harold.
And I'm sorry I got ranting again like that. It's been known to happen. So it's a pleasure. Carl Person Esq, a major guy, and good luck. And thanks a lot for all your good work and trying to keep tabs on this situation and everything, and with some good ideas that are really worthy of consideration.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks for viewing. Coming back again tomorrow. That's it for now. Thanks again, Carl. Very good to talk to you. We'll come back tomorrow. Thank you very much for viewing. Good picture, Wall Street, and that's good. That's a good background.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 58. So we're out. Okay.
So did you like it? Like the
show?
Yeah,
but I got ranting again.
That's okay. I think it was interesting.
Well, yeah. Okay. Oh, here. Now, I've got the spelling is right, and here, just sign. Just sign there.
Where?
Just sign there. That's all. Just sign. You know. Thanks for the power of attorney and the control of all of your assets and the future of your youth, your kids.